Show me how to change slides. Testing 1 2 1 2 3. Let's start this. Are we ready, Jennifer? Let's press the record. It's recording. We're going to do a health seminar tonight about basically talking about common sense, how to take charge of your health. Now, I'm not a very person, so forgive me if I don't change the slide at the right times. It's all new for me to use this technology. But what I'm interested in is talking about common sense to better health. So as we're pushing the buttons now, I'm hoping that we can, you guys can hear us. Is there a way for us to know if everybody's hearing us? If you can raise your hand. You got a little hand button here to show me if you can hear it. Yes, perfect. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so let me go on this here, and I will slide. Oh, see, I can do this. All right, so if we look at the health situation in America, what we are facing, a lot of stuff you already are aware of this, but heart disease being the #1 killer, that's according to Center of Disease Control. Cancer is the second leading cause of death. The new one here you might not be familiar with, it's iatrogenic illnesses. What you need to know, it's the third leading cause of death. And then you have obviously obesity that is now linked to diabetes as well. So this is basically the top most important cause of death and leading cause of death in America. But let me go to the iatrogenic illness because we need to really be aware of this one. What is this? Basically, it's the, if you look on the second line, it's the third most fatal in the United States. It's the side effect of the side effect of the side effect of the medication. We spend $307 billion a year on prescription drugs. We're 300 million, so it's basically 1 billion per million. And now iatrogenic illnesses, the third most fatal cause of death in the United States, has killed over 7.8 million Americans in the last 10 years alone. If you look at that number, that's a huge number. That's more than all the wars and casualties combined together. Now, earlier last year, Harvard published a study that showed that 1 million patients nationwide are injured by error during hospital treatment each year. So that doesn't mean that I'm actually condemning the medical field, but what I'm saying is that I think to learn to take charge of your health is really important. You want to avoid to be placed in these situations. And because, you know, the side effect of the first medication, if I give you an example, I had a buddy of mine that had liver enzymes that were too elevated. And so he got on some medication for that, which caused some repercussion with his kidney, and he had to be treated for his kidney. And these two medications combined together gave him heart palpitation. So now he's on 3 medication for something he could have taken care of by simply maybe lowering his alcohol intake or maybe working out and eating a little healthier. Now, what do we do though? Because we're pretty much we're kind of brainwashed in a way about this. You know, people are looking for the easy pill. So what do we do, and what's the solution? Well, the one thing we all do know is our food supply is not what it was 20 years ago. And at the root of it all, it starts with the food you're eating, and because obviously, if you have a car, it's the gas you put in that will make the car run, right? And so the food is the same, is the fuel for your vehicle, which is your body. But the problem we're facing now in the last 20 years, there's been a lot of new additive to the food, like genetically modified food, that's now part of our daily food supply. It's estimated that we have about 70 to 80%, 75% of the food that we eat every day is genetically engineered. And this is our government telling us that. And so what's interesting to know is also that we rely on food that most countries have banned decades ago. If any of you watch Dr. Oz, he's mentioned many, many times on the show that Americans consume an average of 1 gallon of pesticide, 1.5 gallon of pesticide a year, just through the fruits, grain, and vegetables. And then 80% of the antibiotics are produced in the United States for farm animals. So what does it leave us? It's a scary thought when you think about this, because a pesticide is designed to kill living organisms and certainly bacteria. And now we understand that we have so many bacteria in the gut. So most of the countries around the world have banned this type of food, saying that this food is basically eating you up. It's killing your immunity. And so let me digress and explain to you what genetically is. In order to grow these tomatoes, I would have to grow them faster and rounder and germ-free, as they may say. So I would basically alter them in changing the DNA by adding the Bt, which is the bacteria. This is pesticides. Basically, it's kind of in other words, a Roundup, whatever you put on your grass. So what that means is that genetically means that it's part of the DNA. That means that for you and I, we can't wash it off, because if it's in the DNA, you can't wash it off. And so the strawberries that you see here, that was an image that was done in France and Germany, actually, because saying, you see has a little teeth and mouth here, saying the food you're eating is eating you up. So that's how they ban this type of food. And the mix of breed. Now in the strawberries, you have the DNA of a fish, so that the fish survive in the cold water, so the strawberry can become resistant to climate change. So this is what genetically means. It's a lot of scary thought when you think about that, but it's reality. And so I urge people, you do your own research on this. Come to your own conclusion. You don't need to believe what I'm saying, but look it up. It's worth it, because that's the food that you're feeding your body with and that you're feeding your children with. And look at just food allergies. I've more than quadrupled in the last 10 years. Because let's say you're allergic to seafood. If you eat the tomato that has the DNA of a fish, then you're now allergic to tomato, and you have no clue why. So that's something you need to invest your time on, understanding what you're putting in your plate, because at the root of it all, that's the one thing you could start changing. Look at the food here, and I'll move fast on this one, because I know everybody is not really liking to see this. And I don't want to be explaining all of that, but basically the food, if you think about what's produced massively, in order to produce massively, it has to be grown with a lot of hormones and different ways you can see the size of this fish here. I try to stay away from farm-raised fish. And if I go back to the genetically modified food, some of the worst foods out there that we've seen that has been genetically modified is obviously the corn and the soy, and also that has a lot of that Bt in it. I always urge people, I said, be careful when you eat salad in restaurants as well, because a lot of pesticides are in salad. So those foods you can have if you have an organic, where it's not genetically engineered. And the berries as well, obviously, you can see that. Those are foods that I would suggest people to buy organic if they can. And then for fish, I always urge people to stay away from farm-raised fish. It's actually cheaper if you buy it frozen from the cold water, and it's way safer for you. Because if it's farm-raised, chances are that it's fed with that genetically modified corn and soy, plus hormones and antibiotics in order to get that size. Same with chicken. Be careful where you buy your chicken. Make sure that it's hormone-free and free range, and you kind of can't escape having chicken that's fed with grains. But try, I always say, if you live near a farm, it's always your safe bet if you know the person, but who owns the farm, so you could really get a one-on-one with that person and understand what they're feeding the animal with. But what I'm interested in talking to right now is to raise awareness of how these these dangers in genetically modified is affecting your own health today. And I'm going to keep it very common sense because I really want you to understand this level. You don't need to really know all the technical aspect of it. But at the first rule, what have I said so far is that the pesticide is now inside the food and your body can't break it down. But what that really means is that you can't wash it off. So it's part of the food and you understand what it does now because it has pesticide in it. So that means you're intaking it. So if you're eating that fish that's eating that corn that you're not eating, you're eating the corn. You get it? So that's number one. Second is very interesting to understand this analogy here that a pesticide in the body will mimic estrogen. You might have seen the episode of the doctors that they mentioned that many times as well. A pesticide will imitate estrogen. So that means your level of estrogen would raise. That means that you're more susceptible now to have thyroid issues and to be treated for thyroid problems. Because if you raise the level of estrogen, obviously you're going to have some effects. And you see a lot of in men now, you see in the young kids, they have what we call man boobs because the level of estrogen is too high due to that food. And obviously, number three, you see it, food allergies. You understand why now, because if you mix species and you're allergic to one of them, then you become allergic to whatever's mixed with that particular one. That's common sense. What's scary is that 90% of the corn and 95% of the soy that we eat every day is genetically modified. And if you're telling me you don't eat corn and you don't eat soy, well, if I open your cabinet, anything in boxes, chances are that I will find high fructose corn syrup in them or soy product in them. And so be aware of this. Be aware of that because they're almost changing replacing the sugar now with corn syrup. And because they have so much of it, obviously, and it's a huge, huge industry. Now, the last point that I will make on this is that there's aluminum, there's mercury, there's also arsenic in some of these pesticides. These metals, the body cannot eliminate them, but it will store them in fat cells, forcing the body to hold on to fat to protect itself. Now, you would say, if I go a little further with that, just that study, I look at breast cancer. Where do they find the lump? Always in the fatty part of the breast. Now, the first ingredients of an antiperspirant is what? Aluminum. So I always urge women to stay away from antiperspirant and to buy aluminum-free deodorant. And at the grocery store here in Florida, we have there's one called Crystal, I believe, that's aluminum-free, and that's pretty strong. It works really well. But now look at also our bodies. We're holding on to fat. This is one of the reasons that it's so hard to lose weight. So changing that food will immediately change the way you respond to food because you're not holding on to fat anymore. And really it's affecting your DNA at this point. And I looked at the young kids, the people that don't have that weight problem. So where do these metals and chemicals go to? Well, 90% of your brain is made up of fat. And neurologists will often say there's two links to most of the ADHD and autism is a high level of aluminum and mercury in the front part of the brain and also a lack of good bacteria in the gut. Well, look at the stats here. You probably read that already. 1 child out of 10,000 in 1990 was autistic. This type of food was introduced in America in 1995, mid-90s. Today is 1 child out of 88 that is autistic. So you could draw your own conclusion, do your own research, but obviously something is wrong with our food supply. I try to stay away from what's massively produced because in order to massively produce something, you have to inject it with some of the stuff that is not something safe, at least in my eye. Oh, that's a great that's a great line here. That was actually in a lake, I think in Washington, D.C., right? And they found that some of the fish male fish were carrying eggs, exhibiting female traits, because of what? What did we say here? High level of, number 2 here, a high level of estrogen. It mimics estrogen in the body. So, and there's so much herbicides that is sprayed around the lakes that it's falling in the water and actually raising the level of estrogen in the fish, so the male fish is able to carry eggs. Now, that's a scary thought, but that's a reality. And you look at the young boys today, when we talked about man boobs, you see it more and more. I'm laughing here, but it's not a funny, it's a real problem. And so you hear it on the news. You haven't put the 2 and 2 together, so that's why I urge you to do your own research on this, because it's reality. And interesting to know that starving nations are rejecting U.S. food donation because we rely on food that most countries banned decades ago. Oh, this is, and I'll move fast on this, but I really wanted to explain about the food before I explain how we could fix things. So don't be discouraged, because obviously we're dealing with the human body, and the human body is a miracle. It has the ability to heal itself. But unless we're not addressing what's attacking us, then we're just treating a symptom instead of fixing a problem. Now, the corn that these poor rats that you see there, it's actually a study that was done in France with the genetically modified corn. Now, here in the United States, the study has been done by Monsanto, and for a period of 3 months with the rats, and they concluded that there's no change in the rats after 3 months. So they concluded that it was safe for us to eat the genetically modified corn. Now, the studies was conducted in Europe, but for the lifespan of a rat, and then the tumors, the cancer showed on the 4th, 5th, and 6th, and 7th month. Look on the right side here. You can see all the countries that has banned this type of food. Even China and Russia has forced Monsanto to label their food after that study. And here Monsanto said, in defense of that picture, saying that the European used rats that were susceptible to grow tumors. So, you know, I'm not making it a personal thing here, although it may sound like I am, but I'm just raising awareness and urge you to do your own research on this, because this is real danger. If you see all these countries banning this type of food, something is wrong in our food. If 80%, 75% of our food is genetically engineered. So this is an example. I hope none of these people will give me a call after this, but basically you could look it up and find out what a GMO list of food produced in Canada and the U.S. are. And you will find that all these foods that you see here have been genetically engineered. And so I'll leave it for a while. Even vitamin C here. Isn't that scary? That's derived from corn. The juice here, naked, that you pay a fortune, loaded with soy. Mayo, that's canola oil, is 100% genetically modified. So what do? What do you buy? It's a very discouraging thing, because we left like it's almost a catch-22. But the solution here is not as difficult as we may think it is. We have to go back with our food the way we used to eat, like our grandparents used to eat, and then we have to fix what this food has done in our body. So look at the rate of obesity in kids. In 1960, it was 10%, and now it's over 30% for kids. Oh my gosh, if we go to Coca-Cola here, I'll make a lot of enemies here, I'm sure. But I don't have to stay too long on this. But the bottom line is, do your research on these images. Just do the Coca-Cola conspiracy and see what you find. Food for babies. Look at this. Food for babies. They're finding that there's reason for obesity in 6 months old. Well, look at what's in that food. 43% of corn syrup. What did we say? Corn syrup is genetically engineered. 14% of soy protein. So I'm looking at this, and I don't want to feed my child with that, obviously. But if you're aware of this, I always say if you don't know, you're a victim. But once you're aware, if you keep doing it, then you're a volunteer, right? So do your research. I cannot urge you enough. But in the meantime, what do we do? Because it is confusing. And I admit it. I mean, I've been in nutrition for 20 years. I've been to every Whole Foods you can imagine here. Wherever I live, I still go there often. Chamberlain's, any health food store. And you go there and there's aisles of stuff, aisles of different vitamins. And it's overwhelming, you know, and you have a young kid that's going to teach you, you know, promote whatever the store is promoting. So you're left with what? You're left basically with another Band-Aid. So you're not fixing what we just talked about, because these reality has been tampering with our health for the last 20 years, what we just talked about now. So here's what a company is doing to help you sort through all that. Their name is Kivana. Now, I will add to this that in 20 years of studying nutrition, I have never endorsed any particular company until Kivana came along. Because Kivana was not just a company to me. They were actually, look at their mission statement. What they wanted basically to first recognize the health issue and partner directly with the leading scientists around the world who focuses on these research so that we don't provide another Band-Aid, but rather a solution to fix a problem. And it's so impressive to what they have done. You know, the reason I've never endorsed a natural product before is because you have a doctor there that is paid, I don't know how many thousands of dollars to come up with something. Kivana didn't create any new product really that hadn't been proven and used by scientists before. So basically what they are is they are the arm to distribute a breakthrough discoveries, to make sure that this breakthrough discoveries is accessible to the general public. If I explain to you more clearly what I mean by that, we see that heart disease is the #1 killer. We hear it, we see it, we experience it. So we have our friends and family. What do we do for this? Well, the Nobel Prize was won in 1998 for the discovery of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide, how come you don't know what it is? It's such an important thing to know. We don't know what it is because the pharmaceutical is not letting you know what it is. It's a molecule, it's a short-lived gas that the body produces, and its role is so important for the cardiovascular system and basically throughout the body for better blood flow, because it dilates the arteries. And interesting to know that the president of the Heart Association, the UCLA, the Mayo Clinic, all said that the discovery of nitric oxide is the most important in history of cardiovascular medicine. Yet we don't know about it because this study was basically almost choked due to the fact that it has the power, according to the same study, to remove from the market high blood pressure medication, triple bypass surgery, and collection of plaques in the arteries, which means 40 to 42 billion a year in medication profits. So we don't hear about it. So here comes Kivana. Kivana becomes the voice for these scientists so that the general public like you and I can have access to this and find a way out of medication if we can, you know. I always say to people, you always want to work with your doctor when you introduce a new product. But the good news on Kivana is everything that Kivana offers is a pharmaceutical grade, which means it comes with white medical paper that you can take to your medical doctor. How does it work and what does it do? Well, this is the arteries that has been narrowed. Why has it been narrowed? Well, you know about the toxins we talked early on that is causing inflammation, right? And then the food quality has diminished tremendously. In the last 5 years alone, the fruits and vegetables have decreased nutrients by almost 80% because of mass produced. So, but the good news is once you increase that gas, that nitric oxide, it becomes like this within 20 minutes because it's addressing. See, it's not treating a symptom. It addresses the problem. It fixes it back. It brings it back to a dilated artery. And when that happens, look at what happens. If that's your circulation before, this is what it looks like 20 minutes later. If that's how the blood flow is in your brain, this is what it looks like 25 minutes later. So what does it mean? It means that it's allowing, what heals the body is your blood flow. It's your blood that will get to give all the nutrients in the body where it's needed. And if you're creating a better blood flow, then chances are that a lot of chronic illnesses that are related to internal inflammation will have less chance to paralyze you. So what's also powerful is the fact that in nutrition, I always say, if you can empower somebody to learn, to teach them how to take charge of their health and show them that they have a certain control over it, they will be more apt and susceptible to follow through. Now, having said that, this comes with a strip that will allow you to measure if you need it or if you don't, if you're depleted or if you're not. And so what that does, it empowers you. It empowers you to say, hey, I need this. I need to take this. The power is in your hand. And look at the benefits. So it is certainly a no-brainer. And so Kivana is the arm to distribute these amazing discoveries so that the general public like you and I can have access to this and look for alternative solutions. Now, let's look at the other problems that we're facing, cancer and iatrogenic illnesses. Well, we know about cancer. Iatrogenic, remember, is the side effect of the side effect. So in order to address this, we have to understand the immune system. Well, 80% of the cells making up your immune system are created in your digestive tract. In there live trillions, in fact over 100 trillions of bacteria. It is said that you have probably 10 times more bacteria in your gut than you have cells in your body. Since that study came out, probiotic, being the good bacteria, has been the third most sold supplement in the United States. But everybody would not even, now even the medical doctor will prescribe probiotics for you. But when I look at probiotic and I'm trying to bring common sense to the equation again, I almost think that it's almost a fraud in a way, and I don't want to be too harsh by saying that, but I want to explain to you why I say that. Once you put a bacteria in your mouth, it goes through the hydrochloric acid, the gastric acid. The gastric acid is your guard dogs against bacteria. If your gastric acid is normal, it will protect the intruders against bacteria. When you go to a restaurant with somebody and you eat the same food that that person eats, and that person is sick and you're not, it's because your hydrochloric acid was stronger than that person, so the bacteria did not affect you. It got killed by the hydrochloric acid. And that person's level means that his digestive system is poorly working. And so the bacteria, whether it's E. coli, affected that person worse than it did for you. So what I'm getting at is the moment you put a bacteria in here, it goes to the hydrochloric acid, most of them gets killed. They get killed before it reaches the gut. And the companies that are selling probiotics are really well aware of this, and that's why they're putting like 40 billion, and 50 billion, and 30 billion in their probiotics, understanding that a small percentage of good swimmers might find their way to the gut alive. But it is, folks, a long process, because if it doesn't arrive there alive, the only thing a probiotic will provide you is gas. And so, but it's still better than not taking anything, I would say. So for years, I've always urged people to buy probiotic and buy at least the 50 billion ones, all the way until we found out about the tri-sphere delivery of probiotic. This is an Asian technology that's been used for over a decade, and then we became the distribution here in the United States. It's a tri-sphere technology that has one shield of protection against the stomach acid. So important that you take it on an empty stomach so that it could move from here to here very quickly. And it takes about 20 minutes for your brain to realize that you just swallowed a little rock and it can't digest it, so it moves it slowly into the small intestine. The small intestine being alkaline, it dissolves the first shell. And then it has also a protective layer against the juice produced by the bile and with a time release. So what does that really mean? It means that what took 3 months to 6 months to 4 months to a year to fix the problem takes now a day to a week at the most. Not because the probiotics are better, but because the delivery system is more effective. And that's what makes a company nutraceutical, because if it cannot guarantee a delivery system, then it wouldn't be at a pharmaceutical grade, right? So it's really, really important to understand the difference. And so this, remember, it addresses 80% of the cells making up your immune system. So you're going to fix a lot of issues just by doing this. Oh, I want to reiterate here. Dan and Yogurt got sued for $20 million for false advertising. If you remember that commercial with Jamie Lee Curtis saying that the Dan and Yogurt Activia, I believe, would bring bacteria in the gut, they got sued for false advertising because it is false. You cannot guarantee that. Because of what? Because of the hydrochloric acid. So probiotic is certainly something that everyone needs. From a child who can swallow a pill if he's 3 or 4 years old, he needs to be on that. Now let's address inflammation. Inflammation is the cause of most chronic illnesses out there. If the blood can't circulate freely in the body due to inflammation, that's the beginning of chronic pain. And chronic pain leads to chronic illnesses. Whether you call them type 2 diabetes, whether you call them fibromyalgia, arthritis, high blood pressure, cholesterol, name them. They're all chronic illnesses that are related to the inflammation. So your role is to remove that inflammation and create a better blood flow. Now you know how to create a better blood flow because you heard about Prime, the nitric oxide. But the second key component to this that worked very well with the Prime, actually they work synergistically together, is this herb called Gynostemma pentaphyllum. I'm going to leave this for a while so you can do your own research and Google that. And it's very interesting to know about the Gynostemma that it has become the most researched herb in history. It has over 300 validation in scientific papers. And the medical field will recognize as a true anti-aging herb that could reverse the aging process by 15 years. How can they commit to that statement? Well, I know 2 reasons. First one, it forces a better blood flow, reduces inflammation. That means you're going to have more vitality, obviously. So you're going to feel more rejuvenated. More blood flow means more production of collagen, right? And the other reason I'm aware of is that the Gynostemma has a special property that help and stimulate your own body to produce antioxidant. Antioxidant is the key component to keep your cells healthy. And we know about antioxidant, and you can go to the health food store to buy antioxidant. If you go and buy antioxidant, you take it, go through the stomach acid, you'll retain about 15%, and then the rest will be basically evacuated. And it's still better than nothing. But the key component to stay younger longer is to stimulate your body to do its own thing, right? Well, the organ, the liver is capable of producing antioxidant through the combination of 3 different amino acids. Now, what's interesting, in clinical trials with humans and double-blinded placebo studies on the herb given to folks from 50 to 69 years old, after only 30 days, you hear me, 30 days, they measured an increase of 116% more antioxidant. Now, given to older folks from 70 to 90 years old, they measured an increase of 282%. That means their own bodies produce 282% more antioxidant. And what's interesting is that these older folks got the same amount of Gynostemma that the younger one did. So why did they produce more? They produced more because that means that their body needed more, which shows you that the true miracle here is the body. It's still able to rejuvenate itself at 90 years old. And so when you look at that, And if I ask you, how do you stay younger? Well, do you want to use the gynostemma or do you want to buy an antioxidant? Obviously, it's a common sense approach. If you use your body to produce it, then you produce it longer. Interesting study on that herb also is that it reduces the excessive blood glucose. For those of you who are suffering from diabetes type 2, obviously you will benefit tremendously about the gynostemma. I can't begin to tell you how many people we've affected with type 2 diabetes just with the gynostemma and eating better food. Because we understand type 2 diabetes is 99% controlled by nutrition. 99% controlled by nutrition. So, having said that, obviously you're now fueling your body with the right nutrients, and the body's very happy about it. Now let's see about breast cancer, second leading cause of death. What did we talk earlier? So let me take you back here. I want to take you back. Oh my gosh, I hope I can do this. Yes. We talked about, there you go, that these food are stored in fat cells, forcing the body to hold on to fat. We talked about cancer being always found in the fatty part of the breast, and so now I'm going to go back to where I was, and I want to tell you that the food that you're eating, again, is not what you're eating as much as what's in the food you're eating. How do we address this? These metals that are stored in the fat cells are the cause of a lot of health issues. Now let me tell you the partnership that Kivana has with Dr. Elias. Dr. Elias is a doctor from Israel, and he's discovered over 30 years ago that the pectin from a citrus fruit, if it's shrunk to a shorter size, it's allowed to penetrate the vessels and to collect those aluminum, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, and lead that are stored in fat cells, like a big magnet. I'm not sure oh, you know what, I can't play this on the webinar, unfortunately, but it shows basically the pectin from the detox from Kivana. Once it's assimilated in the bloodstream, it will act like a vacuum, or a magnet rather, to collect the heavy metal that are stored in fat cells. So again, you're not addressing a symptom, you're fixing a problem, because you're removing these metals from the body. So that's what the role of Kivana is, and that's why all of us are so enthused to share this. Now this is a new image for some of you. That came on my own. I wanted to study more about cancer and understanding that cancer, you see all the sticky fingers, they're called galactans. And the galactans is what stick to the other cells. And if you have 100 of them all in the same lump together, they're powerful enough to create their own vein and to feed out of your blood. So now at the moment that your body feeds the cancer before it feeds the body, and that's the moment it starts metastasizing and spreading. That's a dangerous, dangerous, dangerous state. So what you want to avoid is basically the metastasizing and stick it with another one. You see here it's a died cancer cell. Why did it die? Because it died from starvation. It was not fed with another one. It doesn't have the power on its own, so eventually the body will eliminate it. Now let me go back to Dr. Elias on the pectin from the citrus fruit. It's called modified citrus pectin from the detox. It's a long sugar molecule that's present in the peel of the citrus fruit. Once it's shrunk to a shorter size, it's penetrating the blood cells and allowing them to be drawn also to the sticky fingers of the cancer cell. Now, it will have a tendency to wrap itself around the cancer cell, not killing it, but avoiding that it stick with another one. And if it doesn't stick with another one, what does it do? Well, it dies from starvation. So, interesting to know, when you look up Dr. Isaac Elias, you'll find out that he was the keynote speaker in Las Vegas in 2009 at the Medical Convention for Cancer. And there were 4,000 doctors and scientists from all over the world that came to hear him because he could prove that he could stop the progression of prostate, colon, and breast cancer. That was in 2009. And I did a little research on my own, and I went to the American Cancer Society website, and I found published there the pectin from a citrus fruit. study from Dr. Elias as a way to prevent. So we don't hear about it, but it's there. So Kivana, make sure you hear about it. So that's their role. So that at least we have an option. Doesn't mean it's the only option, but at least it's an option that's easy to follow. So what's the option? You bring back the good guys in the gut, you reduce inflammation, and you pull some of those metals and chemicals that are stored in the body out of the body. And so then again, you're not treating a symptom that way, you're fixing a problem. The other part of the problem that we're facing is obesity. I will say it again and again and again and again and again. It's not as much as what you're eating, as much as what's in the food you're eating that is making you having problem with losing weight. So I will tell you this. This is 1990 again. The rate of obesity was less than 10% at that time. Remember, the food arrived in 1995? This is 2009. We're 4 years later, so you can imagine the states are getting more red now as we're talking. So we have to address this because it's affecting who? Not just ourselves, but our kids. And it's sad. I mean, there's no other way to say it. You know, when you see 1/3 of the children born today are expected to eventually develop diabetes, it is a sad situation. So I think it's no longer time to not be aware of that and start sharing it now, because if you're a caring person, you want your children to have the same chance that you had to be here today. So let's address this. Kivana sure did their part by partnership with Dr. Lehman. Again, it's not their system, it's Dr. Lehman's system. And guess what? It has 30 years of research, because that's what he's done for over 30 years. Dr. Lehman has published over 100 peer-reviewed, probably one of the most published by an individual scientist. And this is a 90-day program that is designed to recharge your metabolism. What does that really mean? I mean, we hear about weight loss, and it is not a weight loss. So don't advertise it as a weight loss, because it really is something to correct your metabolism. And I've written diets for people most of my life, you know, because I've always been drawn to help people with their health. And so I could tell you on a regular diet, people would lose 20 pounds. That means they lost about 8 to 10 pounds of body fat. The rest is what? Water, muscle tissue. And the more you lose those muscles, and that's why when you look at a person on a diet, it really shows in their face. I mean, it's sinking in, and their skin is sagging, and because it's not always healthy to lose weight, especially if you lose it fast. But what the problem is, if you lost your weight your muscle mass, that means what is going to come back faster is fat. So that's why people regain the weight fast and sometimes add more, because they lost muscles. Now, when you correct your metabolism and you maintain that plate look that Dr. Lehman introduced to America, that plate look is so important. That's the way our grandparents used to eat, by the way. If you maintain this, then there's no way that you will gain the weight back. It's impossible. Because you see, it's taken you, it takes about 1 protein to burn 1 starch. The problem is we have a tendency to do that plate and then add a piece of bread and then potato or rice or pasta with it. So now you have 2 starch group for 1 protein group. And it really does take 1 protein to burn 1 carb. And if you don't give it in the plate, if you don't have it in your meal, the body is very wise. It needs it to function, so it will take it where you have it stored, period. And you cannot argue with your body once it's decided it needed protein. The only thing you will do is lose. You'll lose your muscle mass. You'll feel it in your skin condition, losing hair, your eyesight, you know, will diminish, because you're made of water and protein. If you don't provide it, the body needs it to function. Guess what it's made of? It will take it where you have it stored. So what's interesting with that program, you start with a boost. Boost is actually going down here. You take it before your meal, go in that area here, and it will actually raise the temperature by half a degree. I say boost, folks, here, but there's no caffeine or ephedrine or anything to stimulate your heart rate here. It's simply a green tea decaffeinated with a cayenne pepper and an L-carnitine. These three combinations will really raise the temperature by half a degree, as if you become almost in a fat burning mode instead of a fat storing mode. So, and then you have your shake. The shake is a delicious smoothie, and when I mean delicious, if you tried it, you know what I'm talking about. Again, if you're going to drink it, don't drink it with, if you're going to have, some people have almond milk. If you're going to have almond milk, make sure you buy the almond milk that has 1 protein for 1 starch. If you don't, then you don't keep your ratio. It's not going to be as effective. And so understand that. But it really is designed to fuel your muscles. In fact, the max burn system comes with a measuring tape, so that people, because they want to show that you will start losing fat around the waist area before you lose it anywhere else, which is very, very different from any diets I've seen out there. And so it's very important to understand that it really does release the fat and fuels the muscles. So you might not feel a difference weight-wise on the scale the first few days or first week or two, but you certainly will feel in your waistline. So how does that work? To me, this is the best part of Kivana. What is it? It's transformation. we have Jennifer Martin here that struggled with her weight for over 20 years. Jennifer suffered from IBS, and she maintained her 95 pounds weight loss because, again, it came not with just a system, but a lifestyle, how to maintain it. Losing weight has been easier for her than maintaining it. When she goes off the wagon, then she's not maintaining her plate, and that's the same for everybody. So if you maintain your plate, there's no way you can get that weight back. So think about it, because it is proven. It works. We have here, this gentleman here is, you might not have heard of him. He's, for those of you who know what I do for a living, I'm an entertainer. I do a lot of shows. We have a show on PBS, and this is the conductor actually that works on the PBS show, and his name is Michael Cochran. And this guy has always been working out. As far as I know, since I've known him since 2003, and he's always been a member at the Gold's Gym. You can see he works out. But the moment he got on the shake, it really reshaped the body. And the funny situation for him, he didn't get in to get healthy. He just got in because it was cheaper than food. When he figured out that the shakes were about $3.50, he says, well, I'm going to have that for breakfast and I'm going to have that for lunch. I'll save money because he and his friend, they don't cook, so they go out, and so obviously it was cheaper for him. But now obviously he likes the results as well. And I think she's online tonight, Pat. Pat is just an amazing person that I got to meet and got to know a little better. And by the way, for those who are listening tonight, we're working on putting a testimonial videos, because the transformation is really what gets me. When you could look at somebody in the eyes that are having health issues, and you look at them and you say, I can help you, and mean it, because not because you're so great, but because there's 30 years of research of what you're distributing here through Kivana and most of those products. So your back is certainly covered. So you can really look at somebody and say, I can help you. So I got to interview, my gosh, almost 20 people for this. And when I heard the stories from every one of them, it's so compelling. And Pat is certainly a great example, and you get to hear her testimonial on that video. That should be done very soon. But the before and after speaks for itself. And she certainly is an amazing transformation, an amazing person. So I'm interviewing also this person, actually, Barb Messimer. Barb had a very funny statement when I first talked to her. And her statement was, I don't believe all you say, but I believe you believe it. And I've tried everything else, and I'm on 14 medications, so I'm going to give it a try. What's interesting is she was a nurse downtown Orlando in disease management, and yet on 14 medication. But yet, to prove me wrong, she got her blood work before she started the Kivana system. And you could look at the chart, the before and after, within 2 months and 10 days. It's very, very impressive. We have here Cindy Helton. She's actually been on 10 medications before. Cindy is an accountant, and she got off 10 of her meds, I think, actually maybe more than that. But look at what she's saving monthly now. So I always ask people this: do you believe it is cheaper to be proactive or to be reactive? Well, I interviewed a person this week that had breast cancer. And when she showed me her bills and with her copay, trust me, she says, to be proactive doesn't even come close than having to face what I had to face. So there's one place you cannot save, is on food and on good supplement. You will benefit from this and you will save along the way. I promise you that. Charlie Palmer. Charlie, you look at Charlie, you just want to smile. This is one of those good guys that you just want to be around, Charlie. And him and his wife are actually doing so great with Kivana. They're actually opening Mexico. And their testimonial, they've been with Kivana for quite a while. And to see what they've become also with their business is just very inspiring for all of us. Because I always say that to folks, you don't have to do the business. But if the company pays back 50% of what they make in volume, if you don't grab it, Charlie will. So I always say, you know, once you feel, in my field, I say, don't try to sell this, but share it. Share the experience. Because once you have these results, it's almost a sin not to want somebody else to benefit from this. And when you do, then you could have your product paid for. That's a good thing, and then create another income. That's certainly what Charlie and Kathy's are doing. And look at Charlie off his 3 meds for blood pressure, and all the stuff from over the counter, all the stuff that he's saving. So proactive is cheaper than reactive. Oh, this is Jennifer again. So okay, well, there's a lot of mud here that she she was at training that, but what a change! What a change that she's able to be that active. It's a wonderful picture. So again, the question is what? What's cheaper, to be proactive or reactive? Which is better, side effect or side benefits? That's a no-brainer, right? And it seems like these athletes certainly understand that. And what's interesting, I'm saying that because they're all endorsing Kivana, not paid endorsers, but rather they just paid their $45 membership at the time, which is actually now removed because it doesn't cost anything. There's no membership that you need to buy from Kivana anymore. But these people have lent their names to this company because certainly an athlete will know about inflammation and will know about metabolism. In order to maintain their muscle status, they certainly need to be on a good program. But the best part to me is that they're not paid to say what they're saying. And to me, that spells integrity. And that's a wonderful thing. And that's what Kivana provides. It's creating a culture of people that just want to help one another. People are broke physically. They're hurt physically, and they're hurt financially. And I think Kivana has been an answer in these hard times to certainly heal both parts. And so it certainly is a good industry to be in. If you look at this, the health and wellness industry is recession-proof. So I hope today you learned a few things. I hope it was not too complicated. I try to keep it always common sense. A lot of it is. There's a lot of technical things though in it. And but the good news is our friend Jennifer has been recording it. It seems like it recorded. So I'm going to stop the recording, and for those of you who wants to have access and replay this for anybody, you are more than welcome to have this, and just shoot me an email or email to Jennifer, and then we'll have access, or Kathy Palmer, and then we'll have access to give you the replay of this. So have a great night, everybody. God bless.